Hello, welcome to BuffaloNews.com. I'm John Vogl here with Mike Harrington in Key Bank Center just after Tim Murray wrapped up his season with a news conference. As usual, or as expected I should say, the coach was a big topic. The thing that he said was he wishes these coaches would grab a coffee, go sit with the players more, so obviously player-coach relationship is a big thing.
I'm almost stunned at times. When you do a Tim Murray press conference, you wonder at the end if you should pay admission for all the things he said. This was not in any way, shape, or form a ringing endorsement of Dan Bilesma or his staff at all. And frankly, this was Tim Murray's opportunity to come out and say Dan Bilesma is the coach. Now, I know he did say that. He said Dan Bilesma is the coach today, just like I'm the GM today. And John, it's just like you and I are day to day. So I don't know if Dan Bilesma should be all that comfortable when he watches the video of this press conference. And clearly Murray indicated the problems here. He wants this coach to not be as obsessed with the opponent as they've been. He wants him to not be as obsessed with systems. And I think he wants a better communication system for this hockey club. He wants better rules in the locker room, rules for discipline, rules for when they travel, rules for practice. A lot of things clearly Tim Murray indicated were awry here that we saw at the end of the season.
He said players have some legitimate gripes about the coaching. He said the players have some legitimate gripes about the way the team was constructed, which Murray said falls on him. He also said the players are just making excuses in some cases. So we're all to blame, he said.
And I'll give Murray that. He's not blaming everyone else by any stretch of the imagination. He started right out and saying, I'm falling on the sword here. This is my fault. And it is his fault. He's the one that put together this horrible defense, which he took a dump on, so shall we say, during the news conference. Really, he dumped on the defense hard, actually, and he knows he has to fix that. But he did say Brendan Gooley is the guy they think he can be. They're going to be looking at, other sources. They've been talking about a KHL guy who is still in the playoffs, so they can't really discuss yet. But they know they need an overhaul here. But, the biggest takeaway is he still hasn't talked to Terry Pegula yet to get the final word on coaching. And he said, I'm going to make the decision, and the owner's not. But you wonder what he's going to say to the owner after he compiles all his notes from the players.
That will be an interesting conversation. He's going to meet with Terry Pegula in Florida next week. I do remember when he got rid of Ted Nolan, he said part of the thing was after he talked with players that he just had to let Ted go because they just didn't want him in. I wonder how much these conversations with players the past couple of days will lead to the ultimate decision.
And Dan Bilesma is owed $9 million over the next 3 years, so you got to talk to the owner when it comes to money, no matter how much money the owner has. Right now, we know, of course, Terry Pegula has been around looking at quarterbacks and not hockey players and not hockey coaches. So that meeting remains to be seen what's going to happen. And, all of a sudden, Dan Bilesma's footing is a lot shakier today than what I thought it would be when I walked in this building for this news conference.
Tim said leadership is magnified on winning and losing teams. Losing teams, they need more. Winning teams, the leaders get all the credit. That said, this team could use some more leadership. He admitted they could use some more playoff-hardened players, and that is one thing they'll have to look for.
They need some veteran help in that locker room. Some of the veterans here couldn't do it. And I really think another big takeaway here is, to me, there's no question Jack Eichel is going to be the captain of this team much sooner than later. He said Brian Giunta is probably something he'd like to bring him back on a one-year deal. But I think as I talked this summer with Jack Eichel about a potential long-term deal, the captaincy of this club is going to be on the table as part of that deal, that we're going to make you the captain right now. Jack Eichel has clearly stepped up at the end of the season. He has spoken his mind about this franchise. He wants it to be his team.
Wasn't all bad news. Obviously, Tim talked about Jack a lot and said he's very impressed with the point per game player he's become. He liked Robin Leonard's season. He's looking forward to talking contract with him. The one thing he said, he's got to improve the depth. Injuries, he doesn't want to make an excuse, although there were some significant injuries, but he said he just didn't have the depth to overcome those injuries, and that's one thing they have to fix.
And they need help from their prospects. The old joke, prospects sometimes become suspects. Well, guys like Nick Baptiste need to score next year in the NHL, and Tim had, I think, a great draft in 2016. Can some of those guys help at some point here soon? He said, I know you're tired of hearing about prospects, but they're coming. They need to come here pretty quick here, Tim, because if you don't make the playoffs in 2018, if we're standing in an empty rink next April, I think everyone here is going to be looking for work.
As always, thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for the latest news at BuffaloNews.com.